Bank teller snaps at black CEOs. ID minutes later. His $7. 9. B. Deal vanishes. Quietly. Hello everyone, before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. We don't serve your type here. The sentence didn't just echo, it sliced through the bright, sterile air of the bank lobby. It was loud enough to turn heads, sharp enough to freeze conversations, cruel enough to draw a smirk from the three women sitting behind the teller counter, their posture relaxed, like they were watching a performance written just for their amusement. The ID card spun once on the polished floor before coming to rest near the heel of the black woman standing in front of the counter. Her dress clean, white, elegant, contrasted violently against the cold gray tile beneath her. Carefully, she bent down, fingers steady, back straight, picking up the card the teller had just tossed aside as though it carried disease. The teller leaned over the counter, blonde hair immaculate, blazer emerald green and spotless. A picture of corporate confidence, twisted now by entitlement. She pointed down not at the card, but at the woman. "Yeah, pick it up," she said, her voice dripping with a superiority she didn't earn. "Next time, try bringing ID that actually belongs to you." Across the lobby, a few customers paused mid-step. One man pulled out his phone, tilted it subtly, and hit record. Another whispered to her friend, "Did she really just say that?" The bank suddenly felt smaller, tighter, as if the walls themselves drew closer to witness the scene. The black woman, calm, composed, her curls cascading gently around her face, rose slowly, holding her ID between two fingers. She did not glare. She did not flinch. She only looked directly at the teller with the kind of gaze that made silence gather around her like a shield. But before the tension could settle, let me say this. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. The teller snapped her fingers twice, an impatient clap. "Don't stand there staring. Hand it over so I can tell you why your account doesn't exist." Behind her, the trio of women in matching business suits leaned forward, amusement lighting their eyes. One of them whispered, not quietly enough, "She really thinks she has money here?" Another stifled a laugh. The third simply shook her head like disbelief was the only reasonable reaction. The black woman stepped forward. "I'm here to complete a transaction. That's all." Her voice was soft like velvet folded over steel, and the teller's grin widened. Ignorance, mistaking gentleness for weakness. "Oh, I know exactly what you're here to do." The teller reached out a hand as if expecting the ID to be handed over like a ticket to a show. "Maybe try not faking documents next time. Our fraud detection team is already on alert." The black woman paused. Just a beat. Just long enough for every eye in the room to feel it. The weight, the shift, the quiet storm charging beneath her skin. But she didn't respond to the insult. She simply extended the card, the real card, toward the teller. Instead of taking it, the teller let it hover in the air before pushing it back with a single manicured finger. "No thanks. I'm not touching that. You can just tell me your account number. Assuming you remember the one you made up." A ripple of muffled laughter came from behind her. For the first time, a muscle in the black woman's jaw tightened. Only once. Then vanished behind that same stillness she carried like armor. A security guard at the far corner shifted, unsure whether to intervene. He watched teller and customer, his brows knitting slowly together as he tried to interpret things that should have been obvious. The teller rolled her eyes dramatically. "You know what? Never mind. I'll look it up myself and flag the attempt." She began typing aggressively, nails clicking like tiny hammers against the keyboard. "This will take a while since, well, we don't normally handle cases like yours." The three women behind her leaned closer, one resting her chin on her hand, another crossing her legs leisurely, the third lifting her phone discreetly recording, not because she should, but because humiliation made entertainment for people like her. The black woman slipped her ID back into her bag, the slightest tremor of restraint in her fingers. She stood tall. Her posture shifted a subtle realignment, like a queen returning to her full height after bowing only out of courtesy. The teller scoffed. "What? Don't tell me you're upset. It's just policy. And besides," she smirked, leaning forward, "people like you always overreact." The customer holding the phone sucked in a breath. Someone murmured, "That's not okay." But no one stepped in. The black woman inhaled slowly, her eyes lifting not with anger but with clarity. Measured. Cold. Certain. The teller didn't know it yet. No one in that bright, sterile lobby knew it yet. But in the next 30 minutes, the cost of that ID hitting the floor would ripple far beyond the polished tiles beneath it. And a $7.9 billion deal would vanish without a sound. The teller's smirk sharpened as the black woman straightened up, ID now secured inside her bag. The lobby was bright, sterile, almost too clean, the kind of cleanliness that made cruelty stand out sharper, like ink on white paper. "Let me make this simple for you," the teller said, shifting her weight with an exaggerated sigh. "You cannot have an account here. Our system doesn't recognize you. And honestly," she tilted her head, lips curling, him not surprised. Behind her, the three seated employees broke into quiet laughter again, the kind meant to humiliate without leaving fingerprints. One of them whispered, "Watch Shell pretend. She's some big executive." Another added, "Next Shell claims she owns the building." The third simply grinned, eyes gleaming with the thrill of shared disrespect. The black woman didn't respond. Her stillness was intentional, almost studied, like she was observing each insult, not absorbing them. Every twitch, every smirk, every careless word. She stood with her shoulders settled, posture poised, elegance undisturbed. The teller misread the silence completely. "Look," she continued, tapping the counter with her manicured nail, each click puncturing the air. "I don't know what scam you thought you'd try today, but this branch follows strict procedures. We don't just open accounts for people who—" She paused long enough for the implication to sting, walk in looking confused. A soft gasp escaped a customer standing a few feet away. Someone muttered, "She can't talk to her like that." But still no one stepped forward. The manager approached now, drawn by the sound of tension like a moth to flame. She was older, sharper, with a blazer that looked expensive and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "What's the issue here?" she asked, though it was clear she already assumed the answer. The teller didn't miss a beat. Attempted account access with questionable ID, possibly fraudulent, possibly stolen. The manager's eyes flicked to the black woman with immediate suspicion, automatic, unexamined, reflexive. "I see," she said, arms crossing. "Mom, if you're not a verified client, we need you to step aside and let real customers through." Real customers. The words floated there, heavy, weighted, ugly. A shift rippled silently across the room. The black woman lifted her chin a fraction, the motion small but absolute. "I said I'm here for a transaction," she replied. Voice even, tone contained more measured than anyone expected after being humiliated in front of an entire lobby. "Oh, I heard you," the manager said. "But I don't think you understand how high-level accounts work. And believe me, you don't have one." The teller snickered. The three women behind her bit their lips to contain their amusement. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't accidental. It was targeted. The manager stepped closer, invading the space with administrative authority, all posture and no substance. "So," she said, "are you going to step aside, or do I need to call security to escort you?" From the corner, the security guard straightened. Not because the situation called for it, but because the manager's tone implied it should. He looked hesitant, but duty tugged at him, even when the scene didn't add up. The black woman didn't move. She simply reached into her bag, pulled out nothing but a breath, and said, "You haven't checked anything. Not my ID, not the system, not the account. You've only checked your assumptions." The teller rolled her eyes dramatically. "Okay, Professor. Enough lectures. Let me show you how our real system works." She turned to her computer, typing with theatrical aggression nails, striking keys like tiny weapons. Click, click, click. She didn't even enter the information correctly. She didn't even bother verifying the spelling of the name. But she didn't need accuracy, she only needed an excuse. "See?" she said, spinning the monitor slightly, but not enough for the black woman to read. "Not found. Nothing. Empty." The employees behind her laughed again. The manager folded her arms tighter. "Mom, this will be the last time I ask." But before she could finish, something subtle shifted. A small ping echoed from the teller's computer, barely audible, but enough to make her forehead crease. She clicked again. Another ping, another alert, another red notification appearing faster than she could clear it. The system wasn't matching her input. It wasn't rejecting the customer. It was rejecting her. The black woman watched quietly, not smiling, not gloating, not revealing anything, only observing. The manager leaned in, brow lowering. "What's happening?" The teller's confidence flickered for the first time. I don't know. The system, it's blocking my override." The customers around them grew still. A new tension settled, colder, heavier, more deliberate. The black woman didn't move, didn't speak, didn't react. Silence wrapped around her like an invisible mantle. Whatever was coming next, no one in that bright, pristine lobby was prepared for it. The soft electronic ping, 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 kept flashing on the teller's monitor, each alert more aggressive than the last. She clicked again, harder, as if force could bend the system to her will. "What is wrong with this thing?" she hissed under her breath. The manager leaned closer, squinting. "It's probably her fault. People like her always trigger security flags." The teller nodded quickly, relieved to have someone to blame. "Exactly. The system must be picking up inconsistencies in her credentials." But that wasn't true. If anything, the system was rejecting the teller's actions entirely. The black woman remained still, posture regal, expression unreadable. She looked like someone who had learned long ago that silence could slice deeper than shouting. A customer behind the velvet rope whispered, "Why's the system acting like that?" Another murmured, "Maybe she actually is someone important." Still, the teller powered through her ignorance. "All right," she muttered, cracking her knuckles as if prepping for battle. "I'll just tag this as a suspected attempt. Fraud report. Easy." She clicked a special internal menu, a page employees only used in rare, high-stakes incidents. A red warning snapped across the screen. "Access denied, high authorization required, restricted by institutional clearance tier." The teller froze. The manager's lips parted. The employees behind them leaned forward like curious hyenas sensing a shift in the wind. "What?" "Authorization," the teller whispered, eyes darting. She tried again. Another denial. Then another. Then a fourth, this one accompanied by a system-wide tone the entire floor could hear. The black woman finally blinked. Not shocked, not confused, just acknowledging that the first domino had fallen. The manager swallowed hard. "What level is this? Why is the system blocking us?" One of the women behind the counter whispered. "Wait, isn't that the clearance used only for, like, big accounts?" The teller snapped back. No, it's not. She doesn't have that level. It must be a glitch." She clicked again. The screen went black for a moment. Then a new message appeared, this one in gold. "Institutional account alert live. Review in progress. Please." "Wait." The teller stepped back, color draining from her face. "What the hell?" she breathed. The black woman remained perfectly still, the white dress cascading around her like calm water. She wasn't performing. She wasn't flexing. She was simply existing in a truth everyone else was only now beginning to see. The customers were whispering now, louder. "Her account triggered that? That's a top-tier flag. I've never seen that message before." The manager leaned in toward the teller, keeping her voice low. "If this is some sort of major account, we need to be careful. We can't afford." But the teller cut her off, desperation cracking her tone. "No, she's lying. It's a glitch. I'm reporting this." She clicked the final button, File Fraud Report. The screen erupted in red. "Action rejected, system escalation in progress, corporate review team notified." A chime echoed throughout the lobby. Not a soft one, not a local one. A chime triggering somewhere deeper in the network, the kind that initiated audits, internal oversight, corporate-level intervention. The manager took a step back, panic slipping into her voice. You triggered a corporate review for her. Are you insane? The teller shook her head rapidly. No, this shouldn't happen. At that exact moment, the black woman's phone vibrated inside her bag. One vibration, short, coded. She reached in calmly, checking the screen. A single encrypted message appeared. 7, 9, B, deal. Status pending final directive. Awaiting your confirmation. The reflection of the message glinted faintly in her eyes. She locked her screen, slipped the phone away, raised her chin. The teller saw the movement and scoffed. Oh, please. Pretend all you want. That doesn't change anything here. But the black woman didn't answer. Instead, a soft mechanical sound spread through the room, the sliding glass doors opening. 3 figures stepped inside. Not customers, not security, black suits, silver badges, corporate-grade confidence. The room stilled. A chill slithered beneath the fluorescent lights. The employees stopped laughing. The manager stopped breathing. Even the teller fell silent, her bravado evaporating like steam. The lead agent scanned the room, eyes landing on the black woman first, then on the teller. He spoke with a voice that shifted the entire lobby. We're here for an escalation review. Who filed the fraudulent report? No one answered. But everyone knew the storm had arrived, and the teller was standing directly in its path. The teller's throat bobbed once, twice, before any sound escaped. I did, she finally stammered, voice thin. There was suspicious activity. A possible stolen ID. I was just following. The lead agent lifted a hand, silencing her with nothing more than a calm, precise gesture. We will determine that, he replied, monotone yet surgical. He turned to the black woman, offering the slightest respectful nod. Mom! A shift rippled through the lobby, subtle but undeniable. Respect. Directed at the one person the teller had treated as if she didn't belong. The manager forced a brittle smile. There must be some misunderstanding. Our teller was simply trying to uphold protocol. This customer couldn't verify her information, and the agent cut in smoothly. I've already reviewed her authorization tags. He tapped the device in his hand. And your teller attempted to override an institutional tier account. A restricted tier. The 3 employees behind the counter finally stopped pretending to work. Their smirks dissolved, replaced by stiffening horror as the word institutional hung in the air like a verdict. The teller blinked rapidly. That can't be right. She can't have that kind of account. She gestured vaguely at the black woman, hands trembling. Look at her! A collective inhale swept across the customers nearby. The lead agent's expression hardened. Is that your criteria for verification? Cold. Sharp. A verbal scalpel. No. I thought the teller stuttered. You thought wrong, he said. Blunt. Precise. The finality of it made the manager shift uncomfortably. Another agent stepped forward, a woman with steel-gray eyes and posture carved from discipline. She held up a tablet displaying logs only corporate had access to. Review shows the customer presented a valid federal ID, she said. The teller refused to scan it. Instead, she manually entered incorrect data 3 times, then attempted to flag the account as fraudulent. Whispers flooded the lobby, rising like static electricity. She typed it wrong? On purpose? Oh, she's done. The black woman didn't move. Her hands rested gently at her sides, the white of her dress soft against the harsh lighting. Her silence was once again louder than the chaos forming around her. The manager stepped closer to the agents, voice cracking beneath the weight of consequences she didn't yet understand. Look, this doesn't have to escalate. We can clear this up internally. No need for corporate to. We were already notified, the agent replied. Automatically. The moment your teller attempted to escalate a false fraud report on an institutional account, the manager froze. Automatically? But corporate reviews require a trigger, he finished. Which your team provided? The teller's face drained. The manager's eyes widened. The 3 women behind them shifted in their chairs like animals sensing a predator approaching. What exactly is an institutional account? A customer whispered nearby. The agent glanced to the black woman before answering. It means her account has authorization levels tied to high-value financial operations, including, he paused, choosing his words with care, large-scale negotiations with this bank. The manager stumbled. Negotiations? What negotiations? The black woman's gaze lifted a fraction, calm, unreadable, but it was enough to make the air tighten. One of the agents received a fresh update on his device. It chimed once. Clean. Final. He turned toward the teller. Per company protocol, you are placed on immediate administrative hold pending full investigation. The teller shook her head violently. Wait, no, this is insane. She's not some big executive. She came in wearing a dress, and the agent raised a brow. What does that have to do with her account status? The teller's mouth opened. Closed. No answer came. The manager stepped in, desperation bleeding into her words. Let me talk to someone. There must be a mistake. We've never seen an account like... The agent's device chimed again, louder this time. He finally faced the black woman fully. Mom, he said with a respectful firmness she had been denied all morning, your institutional profile is linked to an ongoing transaction valued at... He checked the screen. $7.9 billion, pending your final approval. The room gasped as one. Phones rose. Someone whispered, Shay's the one behind that deal? Another murmured, oh my God. The three employees behind the counter looked like their world had tilted and cracked beneath their feet. The teller pressed a hand to her mouth. The manager stumbled backward a step, and the black woman, still poised, still silent, still regal, simply blinked once, acknowledging the reveal the way royalty acknowledges applause. The lead agent exhaled lightly, a sound almost resembling respect. Mom, we will proceed as you direct. Her eyes lifted slowly toward the teller, then the manager. Not angry, not triumphant, only clear, measured. And in that instant, everyone understood. The smallest insult in that sterile lobby had collided with someone the entire bank depended on. And the fallout had only begun. A silence settled over the lobby, not the peaceful kind, but the charged, metallic quiet that arrives right before something irreversible happens. Every employee behind the counter froze. The teller's mascaraed eyes darted between the black woman and the agents, like she was watching her future collapse in real time. The manager swallowed hard. A $7.9 billion transaction? Her voice wavered, cracking in a way that betrayed years of practiced authority. The black woman did not dignify the shock with a reaction. No smirk, no satisfaction. Just stillness, the kind that made everyone else feel suddenly, painfully loud. The lead agent shifted his attention back to her. The transaction remains open, ma'am, pending your confirmation. Would you like us to proceed? All eyes locked onto her. Even customers held their breath. She reached into her bag slowly, methodically, retrieving her phone. The soft glow illuminated her face, serene, unshaken. A message sat at the top of the screen. $7. 9. B. Partnership final decision required. Your directive will be executed immediately. She stared at it for one quiet heartbeat. Then, another. The teller panicked first. Wait, no, you don't have to involve us in this deal, she babbled, stepping back as though distance could save her. I didn't know. I mean, nobody told us. She didn't look like. The manager snapped her head toward the teller. Stop talking. Now. But it was too late. The words were already out, thick with prejudice. The black woman lifted her gaze, slow, deliberate, and the teller flinched as though struck. Not by volume, not by insult. By the total absence of emotion in that look. It was worse than anger. It was judgment. A deep, cinematic stillness filled the room. Then she pressed one button on her phone, a single, quiet action. The confirmation tone was soft, but it detonated through the bank like a fault line breaking. The lead agent checked his device instantly. His eyes sharpened. Directive received, he announced. The transaction has been pulled, effective immediately. The manager's knees buckled. Pulled? No, you can't just take away a deal like that. This branch, this bank, we've spent months. He cut her off. Corporate will be notified that negotiations have been terminated by the client. The account holder has full authority to withdraw at any stage. The assistant manager at a nearby desk stood up, pale. 7.9 billion, gone. The black woman lowered her phone. Her fingers relaxed. Her face remained unreadable. The teller's voice cracked into a high, brittle pitch. "You're ruining us over a misunderstanding." The black woman finally spoke softly, without force, without heat. "You created the misunderstanding." The words landed heavier than any shout could. The manager rushed forward, hands trembling, her voice desperate and hollow. "Please, please, we can fix this. Let us reprocess your ID, your request, anything. This doesn't have to be final." The black woman tilted her head slightly. "It already is." The three employees in the back, once laughing, now stared at their keyboards as though wishing to disappear into them. One whispered, "Oh my God, she really was someone." The other two said nothing, their earlier arrogance shriveled into a silence dripping with regret. The lead agent addressed his team with a curt nod. "Initiate record preservation. Notify corporate that the deal has been withdrawn and compliance will begin a conduct review on site." The teller let out a strangled sound. "A conduct review? For me?" The agent didn't even look at her. "For your entire branch." A man near the line whispered to his wife, "This is going viral in 10 minutes. Another added, "Serves them right." Meanwhile, the security guard who had watched everything with increasing unease stepped aside, shame painting his features. He finally understood what he should have done from the beginning, nothing except treat her like any other client. The black woman turned away from the counter. Her heels clicked softly on the polished floor, not rushed, not angry, but steady. Each step landed like a punctuation mark. The manager reached out, voice cracking, "Mom, I'm begging you." But the black woman didn't stop, didn't turn, didn't acknowledge the panic spiraling behind her. Her silence completed what her power had already begun. The teller's voice broke into a sob. The manager's shoulders sagged. The agent's devices chimed in sync, formalizing the collapse. And as the automatic doors opened for her, cold daylight spilling across the floor like a final curtain, everyone in that lobby realized a deal worth billions hadn't been lost. It had been taken, quietly, precisely, righteously, and this was only the beginning of the consequences. The doors slid shut behind her, sealing the bright lobby inside a kind of stunned vacuum. But the black woman didn't leave the building yet. She stood just outside the glass, a silhouette framed by daylight, and simply waited not for them, but for the system to finish what it had begun. Inside, the silence snapped. The lead agent spoke first, voice clipped and professional. "Team, begin the internal sweep." 3 corporate officers fanned out immediately, their movements sharp, efficient, and indifferent to the panic unfolding around them. Tablets lit up with authorization codes. Security footage began streaming. Log histories scrolled like confession letters. The employees behind the counter stiffened as their screens were overridden one by one, access stripped from their hands like toys taken from misbehaving children. What's happening to my monitor?" one whispered. "It's corporate lockdown." The agent with the steel gray eyes replied without looking up. "Protocol 7-9A, triggered only in cases of discriminatory misconduct tied to a high-value institutional client." Her words alone fractured the remaining confidence in the room. The teller gripped the edge of the counter, knuckles whitening. "I'm not discriminatory. I was just doing my job." The gray-eyed agent finally looked at her, and the precision in that stare felt like the stillness of a scalpel before it cuts. "You refused to process a valid ID. You entered false information. You mocked a customer in front of witnesses. You filed a fraudulent report on an account you were trained never to touch. And you escalated that report without clearance." She turned the tablet toward the teller. "All of this is logged. Time-stamped. Recorded." The teller's breath hitched. "But I didn't know she had that kind of account. And what exactly would her level of wealth have changed?" the agent asked quietly. The answer hit harder than any yell could have. The teller shrank into herself, swallowing the truth she could no longer dodge. Across the lobby, the manager tried to salvage control, desperation twisting every word. "Listen, we can cooperate fully. We can fix whatever happened. We're willing to amend." The lead agent narrowed his eyes. "You are not in a position to negotiate. Corporate oversight will handle the outcome. Your role is to comply." "Comply?" the manager echoed, voice cracking. "I am the manager." The agent didn't flinch. "Not today. As of this morning, pending investigation, your authority is suspended." A shiver passed visibly through the line of customers. Someone whispered, "They just suspended her." Someone else murmured, "She deserves worse." The three employees who had been laughing earlier sat frozen, their faces drained of color. One of them finally spoke, barely audible. We didn't mean anything. We were just going along." The gray-eyed agent turned to them. "Your behavior is included in the investigation." The girl's eyes filled immediately. "Wait, no, I wasn't the one who—" "Complicity," the agent said, "is participation." The words dropped like a stone into water, sending ripples no one could escape. Just then, the lead agent's device chimed again. He glanced at it, expression tightening. "Corporate has issued an immediate directive," he announced, loudly enough for everyone to hear. "All activity related to the 7-9B transaction must be documented for executive review. They're preparing for a board-level brief." The manager clutched her chest. "The board? Over one customer?" "Over this." "No," the agent corrected. "Over your actions." And the consequences that followed. A crushing realization settled over the room, heavier than any punishment spoken aloud. Every career in that branch had just been placed on a scale, and the weight wasn't in their favor. The teller sank into her chair, defeated. "What do we do now?" The lead agent tapped his device once, sealing the flush of system lights. "You wait," he said. "For accountability." A murmur of unease spread across the lobby like a cold draft. Then, as if on cue, the automatic doors opened again. The daylight framed the black woman as she stepped back inside, soft heels clicking against the floor. Not rushed, not triumphant, not angry, just present. The entire lobby stiffened. The agents turned toward her with respectful composure. The employees straightened in fear. The customers fell silent. The teller let out a tiny sound, a whimper more than a word. The black woman walked forward, white dress fluid, expression unreadable, commanding the entire room without raising her voice. The lead agent inclined his head. "Mom," he said, "we await your directive on how you'd like to proceed." A choice sat before her, a crossroads for everyone else. She folded her hands calmly in front of her, and in her silence, in that devastating, deliberate quiet, the whole branch understood. The real reckoning was about to begin. For a moment, no one breathed. The black woman stood at the edge of the counter, hands relaxed, but her presence was the only gravity in the room. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to soften around her, as if the entire building understood who it had wronged. The lead agent stepped slightly aside, giving her space not because protocol demanded it, but because respect did. "Mom," he said carefully, "our logs confirm the misconduct. We only need your final statement for corporate escalation." The manager jumped in before she could speak, voice cracking from strain. Please, hear me out. This was all a misunderstanding. My staff didn't mean anything. I didn't mean anything. Let us correct this. Give us a chance." The black woman looked at her the way a judge might observe a defendant before sentence, not cruelly, but with an unblinking clarity that left no room for pretense. "You treated me," she said quietly, "as if I had no place here." The words were simple, but they cut deeper than any accusation. The teller broke. "I'm sorry," she cried, wiping tears with shaking hands. "I didn't know you were important. If I knew—" The black woman's eyes flickered the first hint of emotion since the ordeal began. "That," she replied softly, "is the problem." The room froze. No one dared interrupt. The gray-eyed agent tapped her tablet. "All employees involved will be placed on administrative hold, pending a full discrimination audit. Corporate will also decide whether this branch remains in good standing after the loss of the 7-9B transaction." The manager stumbled. "The branch? No, you can't shut us down over this." The lead agent's expression didn't change. "Your team sabotaged a high-value institutional account holder. Corporate will determine the consequences." A strangled gasp escaped one of the three laughing employees. We're going to lose our jobs." The teller's shoulders slumped inward. This can't be happening, but it was. Everything they had dismissed as just another customer had become the turning point of their careers. The black woman took a slow breath, calm, final, unshakable. She placed her palms lightly on the counter, as though grounding herself before delivering a truth she had carried too long. "When you mocked me," she said, "I stayed silent." When you refused to check my ID, I stayed patient. When you labeled me a threat, I stayed calm, not because I'm weak. Her gaze lifted, but because I refuse to become what you expect. The teller's lip trembled. The manager shut her eyes, bracing. The black woman stepped back the slightest motion, yet it shifted the room. I won't request firings, she said. A faint exhale of relief rippled across the employees. But then she continued. Corporate will decide the consequences, not me. And just like that, relief vanished. Because everyone in that lobby knew. Corporate consequences hit harder than personal vengeance. The lead agent nodded. Your statement has been filed. The black woman turned slightly, the hem of her white dress brushing the floor like a closing curtain, and the realization settled over every trembling employee. Her silence had become their sentence. The corporate agent's devices vibrated simultaneously, a synchronized chime that made every employee flinch. The lead agent read the update, then lifted his eyes toward the staff. Corporate has finalized the review, he announced. The 7-9B partnership is officially withdrawn. The board will begin disciplinary proceedings for this branch within the hour. The teller collapsed into her chair. The manager's face drained to paper white, and as the black woman walked toward the exit, each step unhurried and resolute, the lobby remained frozen behind her. She hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't demanded punishment. But the building itself seemed to understand. Justice had moved, quietly. 1 week later, the bank's glass doors carried a new plaque. Temporary Corporate Oversight Branch. Employees were reassigned. The manager was removed. The teller's badge was revoked. And far from the chaos they created, the black woman sat in a quiet office, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows, signing the final documents for a new initiative. The Equity Access Fund, supporting black women in finance and entrepreneurship. She closed the folder gently. The world hadn't needed to hear her rage. It only needed to witness her rise.